Today, we are really thrilled to have Tom Wright with us to discuss the potential impact of congestion pricing and how a program like this would work. Tom is the president of the Regional Plan Association, and just quickly explaining what that is.
RPA is a private nonprofit that for almost 100 years has thought about the long-range needs of New York and the metropolitan region around it. What kind of investments, regulations do we need to have a growing, prosperous economy, sustainability? And transit, of course, is our lifeblood.
And, of course, taking care of the environment and all of us.
Absolutely.
That we live well. All right, so your organization is in favor of congestion pricing. Tell us why.
We've been in favor of this for over 2 decades. This is the critical issue to both fund our mass transit and our subway system and to deal with congestion.
We're looking right now at the ad you just put out.
Yeah, we just went to Union Square and asked New Yorkers, what do you think about the subways and what should happen? And they gave us very common sense approaches, which is what we're talking about today.
So go into a little more detail about it, why you think it is a common sense approach.
Well, basically, look, today some people pay a toll to cross into Manhattan. Many other drivers don't need to. So people shop around for the cheaper tolls. They drive through downtown Brooklyn to avoid paying a fee to get to a free crossing, and then they queue up for a long time.
And that has an impact there.
And that has a negative impact on Brooklyn and Queens and those communities, too. And so by charging everybody to get into the most congested part of the region, Manhattan south of 60th Street, we would deal with that problem, create a new pot of funding to fix the subways, and give ourselves a way to manage that traffic congestion in the core of the region.
So let's talk about some specifics here, because Governor Cuomo's congestion plan, these are the things that it calls for. A surcharge for drivers heading anywhere south of 60th Street, river to river, all the way to the Battery, Manhattan, obviously. A variable pricing structure that would charge drivers based on type of vehicle, the time of day, time of week, possible credit for some tolls paid at bridges and tunnels, and it would require the creation of a dedicated lockbox to ensure that 100% of congestion pricing revenue goes to the MTA capital budget, which prohibits the use of congestion revenues for non-capital spending.
Yeah.
That was a little gobbledygook money talk there. So, okay, when you hear those things, it's unclear about some drivers. If they're, for instance, if they do take bridges and tunnels, would they also have to pay for congestion pricing?
We're not looking to hit anybody twice. The whole idea here is to rationalize and make everybody pay the same amount to get into Manhattan south of 60th Street. Also, by the way, if somebody's driving on the FDR and not necessarily coming into Manhattan but just going around it, they wouldn't have to pay. A lot of the details are going to have to get worked out later by the legislature and in negotiations. But the governor has put forward, I think, a really brilliant formula for addressing these things.
When you talk about the details and the process and certainly the term, as you said, it's been 2 decades you've been talking about. I know I've heard about it too. Can you even just kind of go out there on an idea of how much it could be, the price per car? Is it different times a day? What about for trucks? We've
seen reports that have talked about anything from kind of $8 to $11 or something like that. This isn't going to be a huge fee. And look, folks who are driving into Manhattan already are paying for parking. They're paying for many other things as part of that already. That could generate something around $1.5 billion a year for mass transit investment. If we don't do something like this, the only other way to raise that money is to increase the subway and bus tolls and fares, and that makes no sense. Because that $1.6 billion, is that really enough anyway? It doesn't get us all the way there, but it gets us a very, very long way there. It could generate something on the order of $15 billion towards the Fast Forward plan. So I'm sure you're aware of this, and just to our viewers, last week when Mayor de Blasio was in Albany, he suggested that the city considered need-based carve-outs or exemptions for New York City commuters. However, the mayor got some real pushback from state lawmakers, specifically Robert Carroll of Brooklyn. Tom, everybody, let's listen to this.
We have carved it to death where it will not raise nearly enough revenue. What did you think that the progressive plan would be? The plan that's for the environment, the plan that's for safe streets, the plan that's for 6 million New Yorkers who take the buses and subways every single day, to have a full-fledged congestion pricing plan so that we can get the largest amount of revenue for our subways right off the bat.
I think if I'm asking for real consideration for hardship for working New Yorkers, for example, with chronic
Working New
medical
Yorkers
conditions.
take the subway, Mr. Mayor.
Please respond when you hear that.
I think that the senator is raising very serious concerns. If you pick away at this thing, little bits and pieces, you reduce the benefit that we're going to see everywhere. And now this has been done in London, Stockholm, and Singapore. It has succeeded everywhere it's been done, but we're also going to learn lessons from those. And in some of those cities, they really did go too far in trying to carve out a little bit here, a little bit there, and it just doesn't make any sense.
Can you just more specifically, I'm not sure I totally understand what a carve-out is, and maybe people at home are asking this question, or at work, or on the subway.
It's about trying to kind of micromanage the program and say somebody who needs to come in for this, or trying to provide some credits or other things about it. Look, there are ways that this thing can be calibrated. And certainly, say in the middle of the night, the charge can be much lower, if not free. What you want to do is you want to address the times when the traffic congestion is worse. What we know is if we can reduce the number of people coming into Manhattan by just a small amount, that can have a huge benefit in terms of overall flow of traffic and kind of reductions in congestion.
Have you heard of these transit deserts?
Yes, there are parts of the city that need more transit. Another of the lessons we've learned from other cities around the world is that before you put this charge in, you need to improve transit so that everybody has a good option. And the MTA has put together a really impressive proposal for improving bus service, which can be done even before we start to put the charges in.
So the transit desert is the people who have no real option.
Right.
Right. There is no transit.
Right. For folks who don't have another option, this is not about raising the fare for them. But the idea is that there are a lot of people who do have excellent transit service, but they choose to drive anyway. Mm-hmm. The idea that they can drive across the East River for free and somebody taking a bus or a subway is paying for it really galls me. I mean, that's really just not right.
So I'll make sure we're on the same page here. So somebody who lives in an area where there's no opportunity for transit. However, they have a car, and congestion pricing means they would pay.
They would have to pay to drive in.
Is that fair?
What we will do with that money is improve transit for everybody and specifically target those places where you don't have transit options today. Okay. So they will see their options. Frankly, even the folks who still decide to drive in will benefit from this because they won't be dealing with so much traffic congestion. So they will save time every day.
Last question, just you have your ad out. How tough a sell is all of this congestion pricing?
Well, I think that the legislators, we have a lot of them who are leading on this issue, and we have much more support than we've had in the past. And of course, the governor being there, it makes an enormous difference. But more than anything else, New Yorkers are seeing what's happening to our subway and bus system and traffic congestion because we haven't been doing this. It was first proposed over 10 years ago. We should have done it then. And today, everybody talks about a subway crisis, and we know what they're talking about.
Tom Wright, president of the Regional Plan Association, thank you so much for being here.